Vroom is shutting down its operations.
And Stellantis CEO just came out and say that there's going to be a bloodbath in the EV market.
For the first time in 23 years, the 4 top auto manufacturers are not advertising in the Super Bowl.
They speed up EV rollout if a more liberal party gets into office, or they'll slow down if a more conservative leader takes office. Carvana could have went to a Jeep dealership and literally bought it from that Jeep dealership for a lesser amount than they're actually offering for this now used Jeep. This is ridiculous. But it gets better.
All right, this is a big announcement. So Vroom just released. We announced January 22nd, 2024 that Vroom has halted all purchases and sales of used vehicles. We are discontinuing Vroom's e-commerce operations and winding down our used vehicle dealership business. And so this is what we've seen. It's very difficult for these companies to run these e-commerce businesses in the used car space. And there's a few reasons for that. One is because they're used vehicles. They are all different. I don't care if the car is the same make, the same model, the same year, even the same mileage. That car is going to be maintained a much different way. There can be accidents that come along the way, and it's very difficult for these e-commerce companies to know the value of these used vehicles and to actually put a system in place so that they can easily come up with these values. And you really have to have a hands-on approach. And when you're getting to this scale as a Vroom, as a Carvana, you really can't put your hands on every one of these vehicles. You have to have this system in place, and a system is not going to work for used vehicles. So another really big problem is that the used car market is very volatile, and this happens through the course of every single year. You have tax season, you have the end of the year when demand is very low, and it's very difficult for a large corporation to move their models up and down very quickly. So what ends up happening is during the peak times, like say a tax season, or what we just came out of in the last 3 years, these companies end up paying way too much for these vehicles in a very volatile market, and they're not able to move quickly enough to lower their prices for it to make sense for buyers to actually buy from them. And I've got a really good example of that right here.
All right, so I want to show you an actual real-world example to just let you see how these companies have no idea what they're doing. So I got sent this by a viewer. He bought a 2023 Jeep Gladiator, brand new, from a Jeep dealership. So he actually sent me the bill of sale that he got whenever he purchased his Jeep. He paid $36,708, and I'll show you that right there. And he wanted to plug it in on Carvana and see what they would actually offer him for this vehicle. All right, so if you see right here, this is the offer that Carvana gave him after he purchased this thing new for $38,000. They offered him $43,200. This is absolutely ridiculous. The story gets worse, but just in the initial thought process of this Carvana could have went to a Jeep dealership and literally bought it from that Jeep dealership for a lesser amount than they're actually offering for this now used Jeep. This is ridiculous, but it gets better. All right, so here you go. So he decided to sell Carvana this Jeep, and because he follows us and likes to see what's going on in the market, he wanted to follow this Jeep and follow the price points of what Carvana was actually going to sell his Jeep for. So you can see right here, they listed this Jeep for $48,990, which is a whopping $10,000 more than what an individual could go to this brand new Jeep dealership and buy it. And it gets worse. Now, some time passes, and guess what? Carvana figures out that they can't sell this Jeep for $48,000. So what do? They drop the price by $10,000. And to this day, that Jeep is still sitting at Carvana, not selling. They've dropped it all the way down to less than what they've actually paid my friend here. So they're taking a haircut on this Jeep because they bought it wrong. And they bought it so wrong that they were paying more for a brand new Jeep than what they could have bought it for new on a new Jeep dealership lot. They have no clue. They have no clue what they're doing. And this price that they're offering was a couple weeks ago. But now, today, they've lowered the price again on this Jeep because they're trying to get rid of it. So now today you can find this Jeep on their website for $1,500 less. They're taking another $1,500 off of it, $37,590. There you go. They have no clue. They're losing money left and right. And this is just a real world example of it. They have no clue what they're doing. And if you needed any more information to say that this car market is very bad right now, we have America's 4 largest car makers. You've got Ford, Toyota, GM, Stellantis. They are all pulling their advertisements from the Super Bowl. And this is the first time that they've actually done this in the last 23 years. And a big reason that they're citing for this is because the car market is so volatile. So there are really 2 ways to approach advertising when demand starts to fall. You can pump more into your advertising budget to try to get the few consumers that are actually out there able to buy, or you can do what these car companies are doing right now, and you can pull your advertising budget back to try to keep your margins up, to try to cut costs, because they know that the environment's bad. They know that this money that they would be putting towards a Super Bowl, the ROI on that is not going to be good, because people out there just can't buy cars. And this is just another big red flag that we're seeing in the market for these companies to be pulling advertising spend because they just don't think it's worth it. All right, and in the EV space, what are we seeing? We are seeing price cut after price cut after price cut. And Stellantis CEO just came out and say that there's going to be a bloodbath in the EV market if these companies continue to price cut. And who he's really singling out, I believe, is Tesla, because it's becoming a race to the bottom for EVs. We're seeing it with Ford's basically reaction to Tesla cutting a lot of its prices. They have to then reduce the price of their Mach-E's, of their F-150 Lightnings, and people don't even want these things to begin with. If you go to any Ford dealership, you're seeing Mach-E's, you're seeing Ford Lightnings stack up everywhere. It's a big time problem for a lot of these manufacturers to try to compete with Tesla. And there's really only 2 ways that they can compete with Tesla. Is either one, they have to be better than Tesla, and Tesla's been doing this. They've been perfecting this technology for years and years and years, longer than these other companies. So in that aspect, I really don't think they're going to be able to compete at this time period with Tesla as far as quality and as far as technology goes. Or the second route, if they want to compete with Tesla, they have to be able to be cheaper than Tesla. And you know what? Tesla keeps price cutting. This is what Stellantis CEO is talking about, this bloodbath of this race to the bottom on pricing. And these companies, they're not going to be able to compete with these price cuts. It's costing these companies so much money to research, to develop these EVs, and then to produce them and get them out to the consumers. It's just not a good setup for these OEMs. And I thought there was one more interesting point that Stellantis' CEO had to say, and it was, as for political scene, they have 2 different scenarios that they see playing out. And they speed up EV rollout if a more liberal party gets into office, or they'll slow down if a more conservative leader takes office. And we're seeing this political divide in the EV space occur, where these companies know that if there is a more liberal administration the next go around, then what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to get on board. They're going to have to push out EVs even harder, because the push for the EV movement is going to be so much greater from a liberal administration, and vice versa. Whenever you get a more conservative, then the push is going to be less. And what these companies want to do is they don't want to push these EVs out. So it's just interesting to see his point of view from the 2 different sides, and what he knows that his company is going to have to plan for, whether it's going to be a liberal administration or a conservative administration. So I really think a big reason why companies like Vroom and Carvana have such a hard time is because they're trying to sell used cars across the country from really one place. You go to their website to pick out these cars, to get them delivered, whatever, but each state operates differently as far as the laws and regulations that you have to follow to sell used vehicles. And each state's going to have different paperwork. You're going to have even different kind of titles, different kind of things that you have to fill out
to be able to sell cars in each individual state. And that's why it's very difficult. It's also why a place like CarMax, who sells cars across the country too, why it's a little bit easier for them to operate, is because they have these locations set up, and each location can operate as like a separate dealership. So it becomes easier for a place like CarMax. But Carvana, Vroom, if a customer wants a particular car but it's 3 states over, there's going to be different paperwork that customer has to get, has to receive, has to fill out. Just an easy example, there's some states that require you to notarize a title whenever a car is transferred, and some states that don't. And I'm in North Carolina, and we are required to notarize a lot of our paperwork when we sell a car. But if you go just 1 state down from us, to South Carolina, you don't have to notarize anything. All you need is a pen and paper, and you can transfer a car. And I know just from dealing with title work here at my dealership, and we deal with mostly North Carolina titles, it's still a disaster getting titles from these auctions, getting titles from consumers. It's just a nightmare. Paperwork sucks, and I hate it, and it's just something, it's a necessary evil that comes along with this business. But I can't even imagine the difficulties that Vroom would have to deal with, that Carvana has to deal with, getting these titles and getting them across states and actually delivering these titles to consumers, or the banks that these liens are actually going through, these loans are going through. And I don't even want to think about what they have to go through to really satisfy a lot of this paperwork. It's just got to be an absolute nightmare. And I've seen multiple articles, especially from Carvana, where customers are talking about, okay, they bought a car and then 6 months goes by and they never receive the title. And what happens in a lot of those instances is they're getting temporary tags, and they get temporary tags from different states. And that's a big no-no. So you, what the law would say, especially here in North Carolina, is that I can issue 1 to 2 temporary tags for a consumer. And the way that we know that they're not doing things maybe by the book is these reports of getting multiple temporary tags from different states, because they'll run out their tag on maybe a state like North Carolina where they can only write 2 tags, and then they still can't present the title to this customer or to the bank for this customer to get their actual hard tag. So you know what, because they have dealerships across the country, they can issue another temporary tag from a different state. I don't know how legal that is, but this is a big time problem, something that Carvana, if they want to succeed, they're going to have to figure it out. There's cases that they have actually lost the ability to sell cars in particular states because they're not following the rules. And the reason why they can't follow these rules is because the paperwork nightmare that comes along with running these dealerships, running this business across states. That's why I'm saying it's very, very difficult to do this, because each state is different. Each state has different laws to actually sell cars to consumers, and each state has different paperwork, and it's an absolute nightmare.
So here's the thing. Vroom will not be the last company that goes under. They won't be the last set of dealerships that closes its doors. The environment right now is very, very difficult, and we're coming out of this golden age where it was so easy, and for it to just the car market just flip a switch to go from good to bad, it's going to catch a lot of companies, a lot of businesses with their hands in the cookie jars. And a lot of these companies don't know how to buy cars because they got used to the last 3 years where you could buy anything from anyone and you could sell it for almost any price and still make money on it. And it's no longer the case. So what would I tell you to do? Let's wait them out. The car market, it's not getting any better anytime soon. Inventory levels continue to rise. These auto manufacturers, they are getting with the program. They are starting to add more incentives. They're coming out with more special interest rates. Prices have to come down if they want to move metal, and they're seeing that now. Dealerships also are in big trouble, and they're seeing that they can't continue to operate the way that they have in the last 3 years. Things are changing now. If you're looking for a car, my advice to you would be to wait. Don't buy a car now. I'm a used car dealer. Don't buy a car from me right now. I think that later on in the year, prices are going to get way better than they are right now because we're seeing so much struggle in the market. We're seeing it from the top down. Auto manufacturers are having problems. Big dealers are having problems. Small dealers, small used car dealers are having a harder time in this market, and it's going to continue to get worse. And I just don't see anything changing in the near future. So be patient. Thank you. If you got anything from this video, please subscribe, like this video, and just thank you for taking time out of your day for watching our videos.
So you're not going to get a lot of me moving around the lot on this video. I don't know if you can tell, but I've got a limp. I actually rolled my ankle, so it's going to be, you've probably already seen, because this is hopefully going to be the end of the video, but this is an indoor kind of video because I can barely walk.
Of course, we got an alarm going off right in the middle of what I'm trying to talk about. Hopefully that doesn't, you can't hear it.